Okay, so good morning everybody. Welcome to NAB 2017 day one. I'm the first speaker of the day, so hopefully we can attract some more visitors to sit down on these really comfortable cubes and kind of have a bit of a talk about customer experience and how customer experience is changing the way operators think about the customer. So my name's Bhavesh Vaghela, I'm the CEO of PayWizard, and today for the next 25 minutes I'm going to share with you some of our international research. So we do a lot of research as an organization where we look at consumer trends, we look at consumers' views around pay TV and OTT, we look at that across various markets around the world. And we've been doing that for a number of years now, so we've seen some dramatic shifts over the last 12 months. So let me start by first saying, we always have assumed that in this particular market, content is king, right? We always know that if you've got the right content in the market, consumers will come. They will come and subscribe to your pay TV / OTT service. And that's true, they do come. We do subscribe because we want to watch Game of Thrones or House of Cards or whatever the latest piece of content is. But funnily enough, that's not the reason why we hang around. And there's, in this hyper-competitive market that we're faced with, where consumers are incredibly demanding, we need to start thinking about how we put customers at the center of what we do. And that's really essentially a key trend that we've seen. So for us at PayWizard, we believe that for operators to succeed in this current marketplace, you really need to start thinking about how you love your subscribers. So hopefully the next 20 minutes I can explain to you or give you some evidence to back that up in terms of what we're trying to do. So first of all, as I said, we've done research across the world. We typically look at 6 territories, 6 kind of key bellwether countries around the world. So we look at the US, we look at Australia, Brazil, Germany, Singapore, and the UK. And we do the research at the end of every year, so this is the end of 2015 versus the end of 2016, so November, December timeframe. So the first thing to note is, this boom that we have for OTT, well, that's continuing. It's a pretty obvious statement, right? I mean, we've all seen it. If you're from operators, you see how consumers are kind of moving towards that, video across the internet. What's really interesting for us is in every single territory we saw that growth quite dramatic. So for example, in the US, which is typically quite a mature market from a pay TV point of view, 36% of consumers, and I should note we ask 1,000 people in each territory, so quite a good sample across various demographics and ages and sexes as well. So in the US, 36% over a year ago, so 2015, had some sort of a subscription with OTT. When we look at last year's numbers, or in December last year, that's grown quite dramatically, down to 55%. A global average of around 45% now have some sort of an OTT subscription. So the market is growing, the demand is there, consumers are coming on board and signing up to these type of levels of services. What's really interesting though, it's kind of disrupting the status quo, right? So, we've talked about, if you look at commentators, they talk about cord shaving, cord cutting, all those kind of things that come up. And we wanted to ask that question. So, as the result of going on to signing up to an OTT service, do you walk into that in a mindset that I'm actually going to reduce my spend elsewhere? So because I'm going to sign up to Netflix, does that mean I'm going to reduce my overall subscription with my cable or satellite operator? What's interesting is, over the last 12 months, there is an intention. So when a consumer signs up to an OTT service, their mindset is, I'm doing it so I can reduce spend elsewhere. So 64% globally said that was the case. But intending to do something is different to actually doing it, right? So when we asked the same question, well, how many of you actually did that over the last 12 months? And with that, 1 in 4, so 26% of us actually reduced our spend elsewhere. So cord shaving is certainly a reality. We can see that continuing to grow. But if you treat your customers well, they'll end up spending more. But the reality is, if a quarter of your base is churning as a result of signing up to an OTT service, that's a major, major concern. So these are the global numbers. So I guess it's pretty obvious, right? We're getting much more demanding as consumers. We want the content, we want the level of service, we want the fact that we want to watch it across all these devices, we want the quality to be brilliant in everything that we want to watch. And what we've seen, again, differences from last year to this year, is huge growth. So globally, 45% have an OTT subscription. We're seeing this new trend where more and more consumers are happy to sign up to multiple subscriptions. So it's pretty common to have, your Amazon as well as your Netflix, as well as your Hulu, or whatever your offerings are in particular territories. We're certainly seeing still major growth. Another 18% over the next 12 months will continue to subscribe to an OTT service. But I think here's the big point, right? So last year when we did the research, there's this huge trend for consumers, certainly when they're looking at OTT. I guess the notion of the fact that I do it on a monthly basis means that I can cancel my service whenever I want. And actually, consumers that sign up to OTT think about it as a short-term measure. So on average, 50% of consumers will cancel their subscription within 6 months. That's up from the previous year, which was 45%. So now you've got a marketplace where the consumer is getting way more demanding, the competition is rife, there's so many services to choose from, and even when you do acquire me as a customer, the reality is I'm going to leave you within 6 months. So now how the hell do I keep you for longer than that 6 month period? How do I keep you loyal for much longer? And if we look at that from the regional point of view, so again, one of the biggest markets for churning is the Australians. So almost 60% of Australians cancel within 6 months. In the US, it's about 45%. So still almost 1 in 2 of you will cancel your service within a 6 month period. And when we look at the reasons why you sign up versus the reasons why you cancel, now if you'd asked me 12, 18 months ago, it was a very obvious 2 things that were most important things. One was content, and second was value for money. So if you give me the right content at the right price, guess what? I'm going to sign up and I'm going to stay with you. And that hasn't changed dramatically over the last 12 months. What has changed is this seismic shift, which is there's a third reason why you sign up and the reason you stay, and that's customer experience. So in this particular slide, you'll see, for example, at 35% of reasons why people stay, they want flexibility in their package. They want the ability to be able to change their package themselves. They want better recommendations. I want you to tell me which is good content that I can watch. And I will leave if you give me a bad customer experience. So customer experience is a massive factor now as to why I sign up or why I choose to leave your service. Now, you would think that's obvious, right? I mean, every single other industry, whether it's a bank or whether it's a retailer, whether it's a telco company, customer experience and the customer at the center of your business has been going on for many, many years. But in the TV media market, it's relatively alien because the customers have been viewers for many, many years. So it's a different mindset that we need to move towards. So when we look at that data in more depth, so what does customer experience mean? So in the context of the research, customer experience is all-encompassing, the entire customer journey, right? So how easy was it for me to find your service? How easy was it for me to join the service? Were you helpful? How easy is it to navigate your site? Is it easy for me to sign up and be able to watch your content across multiple devices? What's the quality of content like across different devices? How easy is it for me as a consumer to upgrade my package? Now, how proactive are you as an operator to downgrade my package if I'm not using your service very much? So these are all factors around customer experience. How accurate is the bill? What's your reputation like? What's your credibility like? Do I trust you as an operator? What happens when I want to leave? Is it easy for me to leave? I want to leave, but the operator doesn't want me to go. And what about when I come back? How easy is it for me to come back and you recognize who I am? Those are all factors around how you provide a good customer experience. So under that context, what we found is that 84% of people globally, and there are slight variations from a territory per territory point of view, but it's pretty much in that number. 84% of people said they would cancel a service if you gave them a bad experience. Now that's pretty obvious, right? Of course, as a consumer, if you give me a bad experience, I'm going to think twice whether I want to be with you. But the reality is, how many of you did actually cancel a service over the last 12 months? And actually that's 24%. So 24%, so 1 in 4 consumers across all of those 6 territories cancelled their subscription with their OTT or pay TV service because of a poor experience. That's not about content, I'm still going to watch my content, but it's a poor experience that made me do that. But what's really interesting, it's a big driver for loyalty as well as for churn. So that's the churn side. The flip side of that is 46%, so 1 in 2 of us remain loyal to that provider because you gave me a good experience. So, if you play that kind of balance, how do you provide a consistent experience across the entire journey? So that's okay from a statistics point of view and kind of analyzing the market and market trends. The next thing we did is we use an agency called Decipher, specialist kind of consumer focus groups, and we started to ask questions around, well, how do consumers actually engage when you sign up to a service? What's it like when you use a service? How should my screens look? What does that journey look like for me as a customer? And what are those critical moments? What are those steps in the journey that we need to be considering as we try and build a good experience? So we did some focus group research. We did it in the US and in the UK. So a lot of what you're going to see in the next couple of slides are between those two territories. And we're asking three groups of users. One is somebody who's recently signed up to a service. Second group is somebody that has a subscription and have made some changes to that subscription. And the third group is people that have actually cancelled. So what does that cancellation process look like? So what we discovered is there's 8 decision moments, or 8 steps, or 8 moments, or defining moments that really drive the overall customer experience. And when you think about it, they're pretty logical, right? How do I find your service? How do I join the service? How do I consume the content? How do I upgrade? How do I downgrade? Make sure the bill is accurate, please, and I can see the bill. I mean, inaccurate bills and poor bills are still a big reason why people churn. How easy is it for me to leave your service? Can I just cancel? I know we've got monthly contracts versus 12-month contracts. And what about when I come back? How easy is it for me to come back? So those are your 8 steps. We call them decision moments. Those are your critical decision moments across your customer journey that you need to consider when you're trying to build a good experience. So let's kind of go through some of those in a little bit more detail. I'm sure the slides will be made available to you, so I'm not going to go through every single point. But in terms of why do consumers actually want to sign up to an SVOD service in the first place, right? What is it? Now, word of mouth, is a big reason why. My mates have seen House of Cards, and they keep talking to me about House of Cards. I keep seeing that across social media, and all of a sudden I want to sign up to Netflix, and I want to watch House of Cards or whatever the service is. I mean, that's pretty well documented. That's absolutely the way we find the services that we're looking for, and we see that's continuing to expand. We saw a lot of consumers talk about the fact that we see it as a cheaper option than my standard cable satellite package, and the online offer is a good reason why people find your service. But fundamentally, that's the content question. If you give me good content, I'll find it and I will sign up. Now, when you get to the sign up page, when you get to the website, what's important to you as a consumer? And again, hopefully all of you can relate to this, because at the end of the day, we're all consumers, right? What we want is simple pricing. Very obvious, what am I getting for my subscription? I want accessibility across multiple devices. I want a flat rate pricing. I want to know what I'm going to be paying. I want these kind of monthly contracts. I want the flexibility in the way I want to consume your content. The join process was actually very simple. It's very straightforward. You want to make the process as easy as possible. But interestingly, it's the free trial. If you don't offer me a free trial, I'm not going to sign up. It was pretty black and white across both those territories. Give me a free trial and I'll give it a go. Because a free trial reduces the barriers. Guess what, I know I'm going to go for 14 days or a month, depending on the provider that you have. So it's important to give that free trial. And the offer is pretty important as well. What was really interesting that came out of that particular join process is, you've got to think the join process is like buying an e-commerce transaction, right? Or going through an e-commerce transaction. It sounds odd to say that, when I go to Amazon and I buy a book off Amazon, I'm going to go in, I'm going to put my credit card details in, and the amounts of people that abandon their shopping carts, right? I mean, it's a well-known a kind of approach and a behavior. Well, guess what? The same thing happens in signing up to SVODs. People abandon their carts. People abandon and visit the site 2 or 3 times before they have the confidence to actually want to sign up to that service. So actually, you've got to treat it as that type of transaction and use web chat, use supporting communications to help a customer across that hump in terms of the final sign-up process. Now, consumption. Okay, so you've got me signed up. Well, you've got to get me consuming content quickly. On average, it's 3 months. If you don't get me consuming content in 3 months, the likelihood is I'll churn. So, you've got me signed up, I've got to learn how to use your platform. It was really interesting, even the likes of Netflix, right? People were complaining about it wasn't easy to find content, or the recommendations were poor. I want to make it much more personalized to me, enable me to contact you if I have a problem, or put overlays on the site that allows me to navigate. All these simple things that we expect as a web user. People wanted those same sort of services on the on the TV services as well. So the help and guide and search, and we found that a lot of operators are falling short of delivering that kind of personalized experience. When you look at upgrade and downgrade, I guess the key thing to upgrade and downgrade is control. Give me as a consumer control about how I upgrade my service or when I choose to downgrade my service. If I'm not watching my entertainment package anymore, let me downgrade it myself. Now let me just move on with the way I want to watch TV and flex and up and down as my circumstances change. And that flexibility was a critical factor in terms of why people stay into your service at all. When I do change my service, I want it to be instantaneous, right? I don't have to wait till the end of the month, just let me change my service and I move forward. What was really interesting about all of that kind of upgrade and downgrade is, one of the reasons why I'm consuming content is you've got to try and increase my loyalty, right? Be very proactive with me. So for example, if I'm watching House of Cards, give me some rewarding content for actually watching your services. Go beyond the price, right? Be a lot more creative in terms of how you get me consuming over a period of time, and therefore encouraging me to continue being with you beyond the 6 months that the data tells us, or continue allow me to kind of upgrade that service accordingly. And kind of treat me like a human being, right? Know who I am. Again, it's pretty obvious, and it's really important that operators think that way. Now the billing bit, right? So, I've seen some kind of nods in the audience. Now, the amount of times we get a poor bill, an inaccurate bill, and you have to phone the contact center and you try and solve this problem. Customers just want the bill to be simple, right? Make it easy. Tell me what it is. Tell me what I'm paying for. Don't mess up, right? Make it very, very straightforward. And it's really surprising, even when you look at even in the US, but certainly in kind of the Asian markets, parts of European markets. Poor billing is a big reason for churn, especially if you're looking at kind of quad plays and triple plays and the complexities of billing. It's very important to kind of get that right. And if I have account issues, I want to be able to communicate with you, and I want you to be able to communicate back with me, and I want that to be quick. It's just like treating. One of the things that I say is that TV operators, whether you're a traditional satellite cable versus a OTT, effectively you're not a TV operator, but you're a retailer. That's what you are. So you need to treat your business like a retailer and put the customer at the center of what you do. Here's a bit of a contentious one, leaving process, right? So now, typically when I want to leave a service, if I want to leave my cable operator, that's an absolute nightmare, right? We know that, we have to go through that process. If I want to leave my Netflix, it's actually easier, right? What's really interesting is the operator doesn't want you to go, and they'll offer you all kinds of incentives to stay. For me as a customer, I've made a decision, I want to go. So what we found is if you're prepared to make that leave process as simple as possible, it actually increases customer loyalty. What will happen is I'll come back, because I left because I didn't want to watch that content anymore. When you have that content, I'll come back of my own regard. And that's quite an interesting mind shift change in terms of how you can engage. And then when you do come back, obviously there's proactive ways of encouraging you to come back. And that's all about data and insights, knowing who you are, what you're consuming, how you're consuming. But also when I do come back, kind of freeze my account. Let me know, so as if I haven't interrupted my service at all. I've just started straight away, right? Keep all my preferences, keep what I've been watching, so I can just continue my service. Things like freezing my account is quite a good one, If I want to have a payment holiday, or if I'm going away, just freeze my account for a month. Those kind of flexibility is very, very important from a point of view of a consumer. So if I summarize all of that, and there's a lot more detail in some of the packs that you're seeing on the on the cubes, but essentially in the find process is give me a free trial. Joining process, make me feel comfortable. Consume, you've got 3 months to get me consuming content, otherwise I'm going to go. Upgrade, make it very simple, make it very easy for me to do it. But you know what, downgrade, know when I'm not watching. Be proactive with me and say, do you know what? You're not watching the entertainment package as much as you were 3 months ago. We're going to downgrade you automatically and give you something else. That gives you a huge amount of loyalty because it's thinking, oh, they're treating me like an individual. Make it very simple and accurate from a build point of view. The leave process we've talked about, making it easy, and then recognize me when I come back. So all very straightforward, logical things that you need to consider, but many operators kind of struggle to join the dots in terms of how you provide that experience. So a little bit about PayWizard just to give you some context. So we've been around in business for about 18 years. We're a UK-based company that's grown quite dramatically around the world, and we do pay TV, that's what we do. That's all our entire focus. And for the last 18 years, we've been managing subscribers on behalf of pay TV organizations. So millions of subscribers, we've run hundreds and thousands of churn campaigns, acquisition campaigns, ARPU campaigns, so we understand a little bit more about how a consumer goes through that journey. And we've been managing customers through this different 8 stages for the last 18 years, and lots and lots of examples of where we've moved the needle for customers in terms of how we've enabled them to reduce their churn or increase their ARPU or downgrade customers and see how the loyalty has increased. And again, a lot of that's available to you on our website. One of the things that we are passionate about, and we have a particular belief and a philosophy at PayWizard, and that view is that in order to be competitive in this marketplace, and I'm hopping back to my first slide, is you need an approach that is built on a framework of the customer journey. That's a critical factor in terms of how you're going to be competitive moving forward. And one of the things that we're doing at NAB is we've got a whole bunch of announcements around strategic relationships. And our key focus is how do we get data into our platform from different stages of the journey. And the more data we have, the more insight we can drive around how the customer is engaging with you throughout those different 8 stages. So one of the things we're launching is an integration with Genius Digital, which is an audience analytics company. So all of a sudden that behavioral information is in our platform. So we understand what are they watching, how are they watching less and less. And we've added predictive analytics on top of that. So now we have propensity to churn. We understand the next best action. What is the recommendation for you as you move forward? As kind of wrapping up, you'll see there's some brochures on the cubes. There's two key brochures. The Facing the Perils, which is the black one there, is more detail on the research that I've been through with you guys. And the turquoise one at the other end is really our tips as an organization. So 18 years worth of tips of how you engage with the customer across those different stages. So that's all I had to share with you this morning. Do pop over to our booth, we're only over there. We can talk you through a little bit more about how you use data and insights across the different stages. But unless there's any questions, thank you all for being here first thing in the morning and actually paying attention. Thank you.